50. This is a marvelous book. Now, if people want, don't say anything because something that you'll get laxed any. So put together until it hit the stand.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Glad you guys could join us for the show tonight. Title of this show is The M.L.K. Deception. Civil rights, people of color, lies help destroy black people. Good evening, Dr. Short.
Good evening. How are you, sir? Now, I'm sending you a bunch of things right now that should be in your texting you that you need to put up before we even go any further on this so you have it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because people need to know this. I'm more interested in people knowing facts than getting liked or people being impressed by me because I do not know it all, but I follow people all over the world.
You guys, I lost Dr. Short for a minute. Just hold on. Remember, you guys, to like, share, subscribe. There you go, Dr. Now I can hear you.
You can hear me now.
Yeah.
It may duplicate because, yeah, what I don't know if you hear. Yeah, you have to take one of these off.
Uh, could you hear me? Dr. Short.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you. I got you now.
Okay, I was just saying before this thing cut off that I just sent you a bunch of things and we should take a second and make certain that you put that up in the chat so people can see where this is coming from. And I'm going to probably put one more, I may send one more document thing over so people can have this because A great deception is being waged on Black people, but on Black American people by the Boule. It's happening in two religions. Two religions we're getting screwed on. We need to do another one. We need to do a follow up. And I know you're a Muslim, bruh, but I got to deal with that too, because there's some great deceptions. The two great greatest, best known Black leaders of the '60s engaged in some deception. I'm not trying to take away from anything good they did, but there was some deception and how they allowed themselves to be marketed and moved, and it's hurting us. In fact, it's killing us. And we need to deal with it, and not paying attention to it is as bad as knowing something and not doing anything about it. And there's this big move and this trend in our communities. We're running after all kinds of stuff. We think things are cool, and they may not be as cool as what we think they are. You get where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is our people spiritually are getting our asses handed to us because we don't know, we don't research, we don't study, we don't read. And then a lot of times if we get treated nicely in a different community or group, we tend to go with the good feeling that we're wanted. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, Dr. Short. I'm just putting all the stuff in the chat for everybody to click on the links and they could do the research. And this is everything that you're explaining.
Yeah, people need to understand. So I'm feeding people what they need to see.
Yeah, Dr. Short. So
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, you guys in the chat. I'm putting all the links up that Dr. Short is
Mhm.
going to talk about during this conversation.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to go fast. And for anyone that's strong, you're really deeply committed to some kind of religious background, whatever, I'm going to just start off by telling you what my religion is. I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible. I believe in Christ, the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And that's where I stand. And by the way, you bet your asses, when someone's a Christian and they're fake or they don't do what they're supposed to do, you can count on me because as a believer, a true believer, I'm loyal to God and the truth, not just to everybody that claims to be the same thing as me. You'll find that a lot of people in their other religious groups, like you have a thing in Islam called taqiyya, where you have the right to lie to people. The Jews have something similar. The cults, all of this. When you look at people that get screwed by Polite and Nature Boy and Dr. York and what has happened in the Nation of Islam, yes, something symbolizing it. Jim Jones. There's all kinds of folks who do stuff within religions. And then a lot of times folk end up getting hurt or their money gets taken. It even happens in the Christian churches. You have frauds like Eddie Long. But my allegiance is to what's right and what's true, not what you call yourself, not what group you say you're in. So you'll know. And I think you and I have talked enough. You know, when I talk about religion, 99% of the time, who am I bashing? Christians.
You talking about people that say
almost exclusively, because I'm going to deal with mine first. The scriptures say judgment begins in the house of God. It starts with my folks, what I believe. So Catholics, racist, hypocritical, fake Christians, pedophile pastors, I spare none of them. If I will screw the people who are wrong and the thing that say they're the same thing as me, don't think if you're a Muslim or Moor or a Hindu that I'm not going to blast you if there's some garbage going on. Because if you're for justice and truth, you want to go wherever the truth leads. A lot of folks don't do that. They get comfortable. I feel happy over here in this thing. I finally got someplace. They don't see me as black and ugly and I'm wanted. Then I'm going to lie. It's like folks who are black and Mormon I know damn well that the Mormon church, up until about 1980, taught that black folks basically were not they were people made evil by God. You couldn't even have any leadership in the Mormon church until the IRS came down to them for racial discrimination, and then they had a revelation from God that they had to do a little bit differently by black people. The Jehovah Witnesses teach that when Jehovah, whoever comes, everybody's going to be made white. Within the Seventh-day Adventists, one of the prophets of it, Ellen G. White, and I have Adventist family, I love them, but Ellen G. White had a book on amalgamation that said, white folks shouldn't have sex or be with black folks, and black folks were different species. A lot of these religions that everybody gets all caught up in have strong anti-black, and in fact, if you're not teaching love of humanity, you're anti-God. And so, if I've touched the group you're in, please know I don't care a damn if your feelings are hurt. The truth is the light. You need to be able to look at look. I sent you that story about the Ethiopian Christians just being massacred by the hundreds in Yemen. These are Muslims just butchering black folk who are just trying to get away from starvation. They haven't done. They're killing them because they're black. And there's silence from the Nation of Islam, you Sunni Muslims, you Moors, you 5%ers don't say anything when people that are black get butchered over in the Middle East or in Libya or Sudan because you're a Muslim. You put this religion that many of your asses are new to, you put it ahead of the survival of black people. And I see some of that among some fake ass Christians. But I'm not that kind. So I don't care if your feelings are hurt. Get the hell off this call if you don't like reality. Don't talk to me if you don't like facts. Because we're going to say some things, your feelings going to get hurt. You like yoga, you can stretch, maybe you can screw in different positions. But it doesn't mean that the caste system, one of the world's oldest systems of racial oppression, abuse, exploitation, is good. And I see a whole lot of black folks, they're running after all these religions, and they don't probe deeply. Hell, some of the stuff 10 times worse than what your grandparents were into, you're into now. And you keep talking about how bad what it is that they had, and you pick up something worse, and because you chose it, pride. Well, I made this decision. Let me give you a Muslim.
We are our ancestors.
Let me give you a Muslim story, brother. I got invited to speak at the Masjid in Jackson, Tennessee. And let me repeat, I was asked to come. I never said, oh, look, I want to come and speak at the mosque. That's not what happened. These people begged me to come and do a presentation at the Masjid in Jackson, Tennessee, okay? Let me tell you what happened. I went, and do you know that the Pakistanis and the Arabs, and this was for Black History Month, were rude and were talking and doing stuff when I'm talking? You're Muslim. When the imam and these other people come in, people are silent as hell. I've been in enough Muslim assemblies. You don't say anything when the speaker is speaking in a masjid, right? The kids running around. They were showing me all this disrespect because I was black. Just pure in your face racism. I wasn't surprised because I know I've dealt with racist Muslims and racist everything else over a lifetime. And I watched it for a second. I made a comment. I said, I'd always been told as a Christian, one of the reasons that I should be a Muslim is because Muslims have orderly families. And I says, I'm not seeing order. They got embarrassed and called their asses out that you're phony. You're just trying to get people to join your religion when you don't have any more than what I already had. In fact, your stuff may be worse. And so I had to shut them down because they were, and by the way, all the black Muslims there, let me tell you, I call them crescent coons. A lot of Muslim blacks, a lot of blacks getting other religions. Y'all are some of the biggest fucking coons of all times because you'll raise all kinds of hell when you're in a church full of black folks and you'll quit and you'll leave, stomp your feet. But you get into another racial group or ethnic group of people's, and then all of a sudden you want to follow all the rules. Get in a white church, you're so faithful. Get around black folks and you're children of the devil. Get around other people who don't even want you, and all of a sudden you're polite and you're consensus oriented and you're long suffering. And the black folks, some of them Africans, some of them from the Caribbean, all of them were sitting there being quiet, watching the people. I got invited in by them disrespect me. But when I began to embarrass the Pakistanis and the other people in there, they were so happy. But you know what? If you really believed the religion that you had, and it was about justice and fairness, y'all should have checked those damn Asians and Arabs before I got there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me tell you something. The president of their masjid was a Pakistani. And first of all, they insulted the stuff I brought in. And I just brought in some artifacts and things that were African, and I was told that was haram. I don't think someone's going to pray to a sword or an African bowl or a dish. God, and a book. I have enough respect for a Muslim to understand that, you're not supposed to have pictures and all. You're not supposed to have representations of Prophet Muhammad. But, I mean, this little African bowl, a spear, a sword, a map is going to destroy somebody's Islam. You don't have no damn religion if a bowl or a spear or a sword or a book destroys your connection to God. You don't have nothing. I'm saying that to you Muslims listening. You don't have shit. If a bowl, if something artisanal, I wasn't praying to the bowl. I just showing the Africans made something. African hands did something. Anyway, let me tell you, I did my presentation talking about Black history, and this Pakistani president of it said, we're impressed sometimes that we find out in certain places in the world that there are Africans who have things that are very similar to the Quran. We're always amazed by that. And and I said to him, excuse me, sir, I don't know your role here, but I'm thinking as a Muslim, I'm assuming you're from Pakistan. I says, let me go better. You're a Pakistani who's married to a blonde white woman, and that's how you got citizenship to be here. I know I'm right. You know what happened? The people fell out of their chairs laughing. The Black people there. Because I'd never seen that man before, and he was married to a white woman. He got a green card by being married to a white woman. He'd been in the country 7 years. And he immediately got defensive. No, I called his ass out. We'll talk about the Holy Ghost. You take it with you. I saw right through his ass. And so I says, well, what does my wife have to do with it? It says, your wife has everything to do with it. You have you calling yourself a Muslim, but you have a white world view. And I says, and that's common for people from the subcontinent. And I want to remind you, when the people from the subcontinent, from your country in particular, were declared Black by the U.S. Supreme Court, y'all committed suicide. That's how much you hate who you are. So I'm not surprised by your question, sir.
This is a known fact, everybody in the chat. When they were considered Black, they did start committing suicide.
Right. When they in 1924, 25, when they didn't make the cut as white people, some of them killed themselves right here in the United States. And they didn't get this honorary white status until the civil rights movement of till the immigration thing changed in 65. They rode on the back of the bus and everything else. But I laid him out and I went on to say to him, the fact that you think that Africans were late to Islam means you don't even know the history of your own religion. Muhammad went to seek refuge in Ethiopia. You don't know about the holiest man in your religion, where he spent a couple of years? I said, in fact, your part of the world, the Muslims had to fight the hardest to impart their religion. In fact, even wars of extinction. That never happened in Africa. Oh, that dude had his head down. When it was all over, they didn't want, they said all the African food was haram and it was unclean. So in other words, the Africans didn't have, what's the stuff where it starts with, what's that word that you
Zubia?
use? No, 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 no. Halal. They were saying that the African food was non-halal. It was unclean. It was dirty, pig food. So we didn't eat anything because they trashed what these African Muslim sisters had made food. They didn't want to eat their food.
Wow.
And I even noticed the way people sat. They didn't even pray. The light ones in the front and the black in the back, and they praying, doing salat. Oh yes, yeah. A lot of fake ass, self-hating black people run over into Islam, pretending that there's universal brotherhood. I ain't seen it. I've worked with abolition in 3 African countries: Libya, Mauritania, and Sudan. So don't say shit to me. And they actually asked me to go to Yemen. I couldn't go because my dad was dying. I'm sorry, my brother's dying. I could have gone. No. So I just want to say that's an example. But can you imagine? So after we had that thing of the Black History meltdown at the masjid there, the folks that were Muslim kept asking me, can you come back? And I says, no, I'm not coming back. You know why? If I took you to a church and the white folks treated you like trash, you would expect me to confront them then or there. Or you would denounce my blackness. You would say I was a coon or a sellout, that I would allow black folks to be disrespected. And I was so into my relationship with white people that I would look past their transgressions against my collective. Sure you would. But you let them treat me like that and said nothing. You're more interested in running up after these Dune coons and Arabs and other people than you are standing as black folks. Y'all took that bullshit off them. You accepted it. I'm not going to go in as an outsider, as a non-Muslim, and tell Muslims how to treat one another. If you don't know how to do that, why the hell did you stop going to church? You could have had less bullshit in the Baptist church you walked out on. And I'm not telling you to be a Baptist because I didn't like the damn churches down there. But at least, I'm serious. I mean, so no, I could understand why you didn't like the churches, but why go somewhere and get treated worse and say, well, I love my religion. This is such a pure religion. It's such a peaceful religion. And yet when you go there, they don't want to pray with you. They don't want to touch you. They think your food is nasty. They think you're nasty. They hate you so much. They revise the history of their own religion to exclude you from it. And you feel lucky that you can be in a room with people that don't look like you. I see this phenomenon in black folks who become Mormons, black folks who run off into racist Jewish sects, just anything to not be with people like themselves. And on one level, I understand the bullshit of the black church. I think I talk about it a lot. So I'm so clear. This is the first time you heard me say something about somebody else's religion. Because there's so much shit in mine, I don't take time to bother other people's. Jesus didn't spend time trashing other people's religion. He trashed the phonies in his. You clean in-house. But in as much as I'm going to have to step outside of my role and talk about somebody else's fucked up religious practices, get used to it.
No, Dr. Short, this is part of the house cleaning that we talk about. This is part of being B1. This is part of being FBA. This is part of being Native Black. And we got so many issues going on, and that's why we're getting our asses kicked all over the place.
Do you know? So I told them I'm not going to your masjid ever again. I'm not going to kiss that Pakistani person's ass. Their imam was this racist, light-skinned Egyptian who didn't speak a word of English. And they're so proud that they had someone from Al-Azhar who didn't even like black people. What he wanted me to do was something with his shoes, something humiliating, to show he was in charge. I went ahead and did the shit because it's in the masjid. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna pick up and hand him his shoes. And that's a whole thing for servants. So I was, treat me like a slave and shit in front of other people to show he's in charge. And when I meet these sorry ass black folks that are Muslim, they let me lead the prayer. Do the Muslim who have the money in their businesses, do they invest in black communities when they saw the overpriced milk and the rotten meats and shit that I've seen in Baltimore and DC and in Jackson and Memphis and in Detroit and in Chicago? They sell the loose cigarettes. That Eric Sterling, the one that got killed by the police down in Louisiana, was outside a Muslim store. And Eric Garner got killed outside a Muslim store.
Y'all all go in 7-Eleven. Y'all know how y'all treat it.
Okay, you get where I'm coming from. We don't have this conversation. So to me, do the Muslim countries?
No, the Dr. Short, the Indo-Pac contingent
is racist.
is one of the most vehemently racist people I've ever been around.
I went somewhere with a Muslim friend of mine. He's so proud. I'm going to this. I love it. They're so done with the crap that they weren't willing to really work on the black community. Figure if they run and get with another community, everything's going to be okay. And you could see when I got to the Muslim event, all the different types of Muslims from the different communities were all segregated from one another. And you could see the look of fear when you were black walking towards them, like they were going to have to speak or sit or eat around you. And I said to my friend, nigga, you're a liar, man. Because if I took you to some place and you got you like this by white Christians, you'd be looking at me like, nigga, you fake. He says, well, when you're fake around your Islam, can I call you a fake ass nigga around your little religion? Put you bow with your asshole up in the air? Really? Just don't invite me to anything with people that hate me, and they hate your ass too. But you give money, right? But you're a slave. And we'll do Malcolm X later. So I want to talk about this because the first time I ever went to a Hindu event, it was for another very significant black person. He died, I think, within the last 2 years. His name is Robert or Bob Moses, one of the brains of Freedom Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've heard of Freedom Summer? His name is Bob Moses. He was quite up. It would have been close to 90. Let me look real fast. Let me send you a link for Bob Moses because, yep, a lot of people talk about these people. I've met quite a few of them. Let me see. When did he die? He died 2021. How old was he? He was 86. Yeah, he was approaching 90. I'm sending that to you. So Bob Moses was a Hindu, and let me tell you, I remember going to their event, and again, it was segregated, different people sitting, and they were misquoting the Bible and everything as they were merchandising Hinduism and how great it was and how perfect it is. And whether it's perfect or not is in a whole different matter. It's your choice, it's your soul. But if you end up in hell, you're the one that made that decision. So it's left to each of us to decide how we're going to find God. I'm not going to tell you how you're going to find it, but I know what I believe in. Mm-hmm. Now, let's do a quick, fast, and dirty. And for all the Hindus, y'all going to get offended because no, I'm not going to go through all the literature. I'm not going to talk about all the change, the reforms, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go quick and fast and just say Hinduism is a combination of both the religions of the people who came into India and the Aboriginal people there, the black ones called the Dravidians, the cool, good-looking ones with the good food, nice music, and nicer people. And then this other group that came in that enslaved them. You have two sets. So you got Earth Goddesses, Sky, and you have some 300 million different manifestations of their God. They have a trinity called the Trimurti. I think it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So like Father, Son, Holy Ghost, they got all of that. But key inside of there, they've got different books, the Vedas. They've got a range of literature. But the thing I'm interested in that I'm going to hone in on is that India has a thing called the caste system. The Hindu religion has a caste system. And the caste system has its top people. In fact, their mythology, and I'm going through this kind of rough, is that the Brahmins come from the head of Brahma. The Vaishya, not the Vaishya, the Kshatriya come from like the chest, the arms, and then the Vaishya. Okay, now the Brahmins are the rulers, the politicians, the philosophers, the intellectuals, blah, 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 kings, queens. The Kshatriyas are the warriors, the generals, powerful people. The Vaishya are the business class, the entrepreneurial people. And then they have the Sudra, or the untouchables. And there are only three castes, right? Three groups of people that are okay. And the folks that don't make the caste, basically, the way they do it is that the Brahmins came out of the head of Brahma. The Kshatriyas came out of like the chest of Brahma. The Vaishya came out of like the stomach of Brahma. And then the people that they consider us to be, we came out of God's ass. 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 When you go on Dunkin' Donuts and all these places and you get treated like shit, you came out of God's ass, niggas. You came out of God's ass. That's why you get that treatment from certain types of people, because the untouchables are ritually impure. That means you're unclean, you're trash, you're vile. You're lower than shit. And I mean that literally, because the people have a lot of respect and veneration for cows in Hinduism, to the point where taking cow shit and putting it in your hair is considered a blessing. I can't shake an untouchable's hands, but I can take some cow shit and put it in my hair, or I can drink the cow piss. It's pure. So black people are less than shit. But the shit of a cow or the shit of a monkey, they have all kinds of animals that are sacred to the Hindu. But you and I aren't. And so when you do your yoga and you run after all this shit blindly, I'm not saying you can't learn how to stretch and all that kind of stuff. You need to understand what you're hooking your asses up with. It's really harsh. And people will tell you the caste system doesn't exist anymore. It's a fucking lie. And what people are trying to do is either defend their religion, because it's kind of stupid if you think that a significant part of humanity came out of God's ass, and that there should be perpetual slaves, and not just perpetual slaves. You're supposed to be Harijan, or a Harijan, which it means children of the gods, or children of God, Hari. And you see the word Jan, like Jin, genocide. Indo-European, a lot of languages have similar roots in the word. Hari, Jan, okay. Those people, it sounds nice. In fact, Gandhi wanted to name the untouchables, the Black Indians, the people that are seen as the untouchables, the Sudras, the outcast, the dirty, ritually impure people, Harijan. It sounds nice when you say children of God until you understand what it really means. In a lot of religions, you have temple prostitutes. The Harijan are the ones that the higher important people come in and fuck to serve God. So you're fuckable, and you're shit out of God's ass. And you mean to tell me that the stupid ass black people who are running after all these Eastern religions quite blindly don't encounter unfair treatment. And let me say this, I don't dislike Indians. I adore Indian people, the ones that are nice. There's some really, if you meet some nice Indians, they're like nice people anywhere else. And a lot of the Indians from southern India, the Tamils, the people are just really cool. A bunch of them is black, look just like us. I'm not saying anything to disparage people, but a caste system, not only are these people shit out of God's ass, they're to be fucked, but they're to be basically slaves. All the bad jobs in India, in fact, part of the job of the Harijan or the untouchables, you get the word pariah from the word pariah. Pariah is their word for the people that came out of God's ass. So you get the word pariah, all this stuff, that thing is so harsh. And of course, you believe in reincarnation, that if you live good as shit out of God's ass, maybe when you come back and you're reincarnated, you won't be shit out of God's ass. It's a hell of a faith to have. I don't care who's comfortable with it. I would never want to condemn someone to be less human than others, and their best hope is that they live a very good life. Maybe, but you know what? You could come back as a frog or a lizard, or you could come back as an E. coli up someone's ass. I mean, it's this is really, it's really, and you meet some really brilliant black folk who are angry at bullshit that they've seen in the Christian thing, and they should be angry, going to something that's as problematic. It's more so. Now, does everybody practice this extreme discriminatory caste thing? No, but I want to tell you the state of Oregon within the year has declared caste bigotry as illegal because the Indians coming over have brought this shit with them, and the Indians who are the shit out of God's ass can't get jobs because this is they live this thing. They live it. Now, let me just say to you, when the British took over India through the British East India Company and all the other things that they did, the people that were seen as shit out of God's ass, there's a thing called the Victorian genocides, maybe 80 to 100 million of these shit out of God's ass people starved to death under a system called the Zamindari. When the British came into India and changed the economics, the high caste people used the British and their system to double down and be, in particular, even meaner to the very bottom people. You need to understand that India is the mother of many religions. Sikhism, you've got Buddhism. In fact, Buddha quit Hinduism because he didn't like the unfairness of how people were treated. This is a prince, Gautama Buddha. He's high up there, doesn't like, why can't other people be free, be happy? You know, how do you structure something where people are stuck forever to just be shit? So you get Buddhism, you get Sikhism, you have lots of different little sects and groups that came out of the larger Hindu thing to form something else. You have some people who don't really practice the stuff that heavily, but at the heart of it is that you've got this caste system that's very real. And people get raped and lynched and robbed and exploited. Even Africans going to India, when certain women just had their clothes snatched off, you're a black woman, you're a whore. You're shit out of God's ass. You're Harijan. Give up the pussy, bitch. And you think it's strange. It's his way of life. It's his belief. It's his belief. This gentleman, look, Kamala Harris ain't doing nothing for black people. We're shit out of God's ass, people. And you dumb black bitches that are in Delta Sigma Theta or AKA, she's AKA, who think just because she's brown, she's on the same page as you. I'm telling you, that's why I'm gonna keep cursing these silly ass black women who think that they're smarter than black men. We complement each other. We don't exceed one another. I need my sister Sean. I need my sister friends, my mom. I need black women. I don't think I'm too good for black women. I think I was made just right for a black woman, the right one. All these women that are too much goddess, too much queen to be submitted or in a relationship or to at least have respect for black men. You hoes have no idea. Keep getting up behind people like Kamala. Because if you go to India, where the women, get sold off, India to this day may have 10 to 20 million enslaved people out of that same group, the shit out of God's ass. And they do the cremations, and these people even eat human ashes and such. They're so hungry. They die. They don't get stuff. And it's been like this for 3,000 years. We bitched about 1619. We're fucking lucky. In fact, the difference between me being a Christian and them being a Hindu, and I don't care who doesn't like this, the black people who learned what was in the damn Bible were able to challenge the white people that were trying to hide behind the Bible to justify us being enslaved. You won't find that in Islam. You won't find it in Buddhism. And it's definitely not in Hinduism. In fact, this is why people have to leave it if they don't like the caste. There's no way you can't get rid of the structural racism and abuse because that's the way it's set up. I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care how much people honor you and treat you better than other people. But the real ones, in fact, there's some Indians who are as white, if not whiter, than people in Norway and Sweden. In fact, let me just tell you how India works. India is sort of like a pyramid. It's a point at the bottom, and just below India is the island of Sri Lanka. And let me tell you something. At the top, at the base, if you pointed the pyramid upside down, would be Kashmir. It's sort of like a little square that would be above the base of the pyramid. The lighter the people are in India, like in the northern part of India, the lighter the people are, the more you find Brahmins. The further down and the darker that people get in India, the fewer and fewer and fewer people came out of God's head, and the more and more came out of God's ass. And all you folk wearing yoga pants and getting into all this Eastern stuff. And I'm not saying it's not kind of cool, but know what you're getting into. So Kashmir. And the Kashmiri Brahmins are the highest because they're the lightest with the straightest of hair. And in India, there are millions of black people. They're called tribals. In fact, there's a thing called backward caste, scheduled caste. Oh yeah, they have caste within caste, and the lowest of the low are the really, really, really black looking ones. They're just the absolute trash. Now, I'm not to say that you didn't have black kings in India, but you know how they became kings? You know under whose rulership they got the kingship that they'll talk about? Islam. And in fact, the English did a genocide. It's called the the Sepoy Rebellion. It really was an Indian revolution in which the British committed genocide. They would take 20, 30 people and tie them to a cannon and shoot a cannonball through them. Hung dozens of people from trees. This is the British that you run off to London and spend money thinking that the English are cool. The English are basically fucked up white people with a different accent with nasty boiled food. Shit. Thank God for KFC. And we know he stole that from the black woman that worked for his sorry ass. And what colonel was he a warrior in the Civil War fighting for our enslavement? Keep your money out of that damn franchise. Anyway, so I'm giving you the backdrop. So the lighter you are, the better you are. And the darker skinned people, okay, are the folks that are marginalized. How can we, as people who've been persecuted based on color, support a religious system that discriminates based on color? If it's wrong in Christianity and it's wrong in Islam, which is why people in the Nation of Islam don't want to be Sunni or Shia, how is it right in Hinduism? How is it right in Buddhism? How is it right in Mormonism? How is it right in the Seventh-day Adventists? How is it right in the Jehovah's Witnesses? Huh? How is it? Our ancestors were fighting for fairness, justice, land, freedom, not to be shit out of God's ass. Now, having said it like that in very crude and common terms, and folk who are going to be offended, and it's okay. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to talk very straight about something here. Our people in America, Black people in America, have had a lot to do with the improvement of the conditions of people in India. And most of you don't know that history. And by the way, it hasn't come from Black folks who are Hindu per se. It's come from Black folks that were Christian or Muslim, not Hindu, because typically when you're Hindu, Black folks join something, they try to fit in. They've been so rejected by the culture that they're in, and we don't want what we have, and we don't want each other. So we get rejected trying to get into white people, other people's stuff. So we find this other exotic thing and say, hey, these people don't hate me for being Black. I can fit in. I can be somebody, and nobody will get my way, and they'll give me an identity with dignity. This is what Malcolm X did too. Yeah, I said it. Let me go over here. And everyone has an option to switch up. But when you go over there, if it's no better, you're self-deceiving yourself. See, the real struggle is what we need to do on the inside and how we need to deal with one another, which is what we choose not to do. We think there's a shortcut. There's a way around. There's a way around dealing with each other. Now, let's talk about this. I sent to Brother Quentin Arundhati Roy. She's an Indian writer, scholar, and you can hear what she has to say in greater detail. I'm just putting this in crude Black street talk so we can understand each other. But Miss Roy has laid out that the figure that we've been told to respect and look up to, Mahatma K. Gandhi, we've been told was a great man. In fact, many of us think that he was Martin Luther King's greatest influence, which is a goddamn lie. And since Negroes wanted white liberal support, and see, let me just say this to you. There's a strong trend in white racism and white supremacy and white occultism that they worship all things that come from the Buddhists and the Hindus. Oh, yes, they do. And there have been white folks white folks who don't like Christianity, they don't like Islam. They are waiting for a person by the name of Maitreya. This is like some Buddhist Messiah figure. A lot of people don't understand that in the 1900s, a lot of people all over the world, white folks into esoteric religions, they did not like the Christian religion, they did not like Judaism, they did not like Islam, were looking to the religions of the East for true spiritual revelation. And for the last 140, 150 years, there have been various Indian swamis or religious teachers who hustled the shit out of people. And as for us, we get caught up on, well, they're dark like us. I don't know if you remember the Rajneeshi, the sex guru, where people could just have all the sex they wanted and follow this person, or Hare Krishna. There's been a long line of these people. There's a person by the name of Tilak, Vivekananda, there were people who were Brahmin Indians in the 1800s in order to conquer the Western world, wanted to take their Hinduism that they would dress up and get support in the Western world and spiritually conquer the West with Hinduism. And they targeted getting white people to become Hindus, elite white folks to join. And so there's been a relationship, even when England ruled India. They got control of India more or less 1700s, at least by the 1800s, early 1800s, England had more or less control of India, and they relinquished control in 1947. But even in this, the English worked with the Muslim kings and princes and the leading families of Hindus. So there's always been a relationship. They've always been house niggas. That's why you see people like this guy, Vivek Ramaswamy, and I call him vasectomy. You see this with Kamala. They see them. Aryan isn't white skin. Aryans look like Kamala. There's a relationship between people who are Luciferian, satanic people. In fact, even Hitler refashioned the sun disk swastika. It comes from India. All over Europe, all these people that got into fascism and anti-Black racism, these people were into these Eastern religions alongside their perverted, mispracticed Christianity, and sometimes they're Roman Catholic. And so, in fact, when the Beatles went over and they started getting into Hinduism and getting into all this stuff and Eastern spirituality, all this stuff has really come to this country. I mean, I can't complain, things move. But what does it mean for you and I? Doesn't mean what it means to white folks. In fact, a whole lot of white folks began to get into Eastern religions. I'm talking about the elite white people. There are two things that happen. Let me just give you a quick interject something. From the 1600s until the middle of the 1800s, you had abolitionist movements in the English-speaking world, and I guess in other places. And one of the fundamental books that argued against enslavement of Black people are using the Bible. The white folks are so angry about people like Frederick Douglass and Martin Delany. I mean, Black folks learning and beating white folks at their own game with the Bible until white folks left using religion as a justification for supremacy, and they got into Darwinism and science to justify their supremacy. And when science, basically following World War II and the discrediting of eugenics and Nazism, then white folks have doubled back to a religious system where it's absolutely normal to fuck over people on color. And what do white folks do? They got into New Age. New Age is basically Hinduism light, esoteric stuff light. And you'll meet a lot of Black folks in the end of this. And I'm not saying you do what you want, be happy, but understand just because you don't practice all of it doesn't mean that what I'm talking about isn't a part of your belief system. It's like me as a Christian, I don't take communion, or I don't believe that Jesus really died on the cross. I'm not really a Christian if I don't. But, there are people think that I could be a transgender pastor. I could be right. When you say you believe in something, you get the whole damn thing. You don't get to cherry pick. And Black people are fake. We think we can cherry pick everything. Didn't pick cotton that good. And you don't pick cherries any better when it comes down to facts. So there's a relationship between these Hindu priests and Buddhist mystics and white supremacist Luciferians. And by the way, they always hate Black people. Always. I don't care who joins it. I don't care who has a good time in it. They're using you for your presence or your importance to mess over your people. It's the same way that there was a black woman that everybody looked up to in Jim Jones's People's Temple. And when that bitch objected to them killing the children, they put a needle in her neck and killed her ass and then killed everybody else. For all the strong, loudmouth black women out there that know so fucking much. They killed her ass first. That black girl magic died there right on the spot. Okay, now let me just go back to that and say, now, I'm saying to you that the British had an alliance with the Indian elites. That's how they were able, 100,000 white people were ruling over 300 million non-white people. That required cooperation, right? Because 100,000 cops. Okay, can you imagine? Look, New York City has 30,000 or more police, and they can barely handle black folks who are less than, what, 2 million? So how could 100,000 white people run 300 million non-white people, other than there was a partnership between the Boule and the Indian Society and the English, which is what they had. And what I'm trying to say to you is people like this guy, vasectomy, and Kamala, these folks come from having a relationship with white folks screwing black people on a global basis. I'm not trying to be funny, and I do not hate Indians, but where you put certain sorts of Indians, white people and black people, the Indians align with whites against the blacks. That's Guyana, that's Trinidad, that's Canada, that's America, that's South Africa, that's Fiji, that's Mauritius, that's Kenya, that's Uganda.
You've yet heard Kamala speak anything crazy about vasectomy.
She's not going to.
Not going
And Nikki Haley is an Indian too, and she's not.
That's the code that they on.
The code is that use black people. Look, they use black people in the caste system. Of course, she's comfortable with black. They used to black slaves. Her father, who was Indian, they're a slave-holding Indian family in Jamaica. Damn, we can acknowledge that there were black Americans that owned people, but we can't acknowledge that there were Jamaican, Asians that owned people. Now, let me just move somewhere because I'm trying to give you this background so you can understand where I'm coming from. And people in the chat room, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to treat me like a religious bigot. I'm just trying to get you to come to church and rattle a tambourine and give me 10% of your income. Treat me like that, but damn it, look for yourselves. Damn you if you don't look. Damn you if you don't look. Now, let me just say this. So, when the British ruled India, they had house niggers, lots of them. And what was going on in India, because I'm moving towards the century, when the Indian people began to, after they had their system put in place, like millions of people died, and the Zamindari and the British East India Company, and they had the Viceroy of India, which is the crown of the British Empire, is that they control those 300 million people and use their asses. When the Indians began to agitate for their liberation, there was one person by the name of Rahul Baba Sahib Ambedkar. He was an untouchable. In other words, he's the Indian version of a nigger. He came out of God's ass, so they thought. He's from Maharashtra. That is the state in India where the city of Mumbai, which we were raised to call Bombay. The British changed the name because they didn't want to say it like the people did. Anyway, I'm white and I say so. I'm white and I say Mumbai is Bombay. And that's how we were saying it until recently. He's from that area. And someone did for him what Mrs. Ault did for Frederick Douglass and taught him how to read and gave this untouchable an opportunity to study. And first he went to England and studied, and he was treated like shit when he was in school in England. And then he came and stayed in Harlem for a while. And he would visit and got very close to people at Abyssinia Baptist Church. when Adam Clayton Powell and his father were alive. And he was able to see Marcus Garvey and all this other stuff. And this man named M.L.K became basically the George Washington for the untouchable people. He's the first person to get a law degree. And what happened, so you'll understand, is that he began to agitate that if India was going to be free, that in a new system, the people, the untouchables, the Dalits, Dalit means crushed down, people who've been walked on, that they would get benefits for the British having been there, and a new society. They'd be able to vote. They'd be able to get their issues handled. They'd get reparations. And so he began to organize. And I sent you the movie, brother, the M.L.K movie. For many years, they made it almost impossible for you to see the film because it's India's scandal. It's India's shame. It's India's fraud. It's people talk about the abuses of Christianity and the Catholic Church. That shit's real. It exists in other religions too. Okay, mind you, you know, brother, I have no problem talking about racism and slavery and the good ship Jesus and all this garbage they run. Well, they run it in Hinduism too. Now, moving right along, M.L.K, there was a thing in India. One of their main first political parties was called the Indian National Congress, or the INC, or Congress I is what they call it. And there was another group of people that says, "Oh hell to the no," because the the Congress I was Hindu dominated, and the Muslims said, "Oh hell to the no." So they started something called the Muslim League, led by a man by the name of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Y'all can look this shit up. Wikipedia is free. The Muslim League was established early 1900s. And what happened was the Muslims wanted to make certain that they didn't get screwed in the new India. So then you have Congress I, the Muslim League, and M.L.K said, well, what about we people who came out of God's ass? We need something too. So he went to England having a barrister, means he was a lawyer. He knew British law. He went and got an agreement from the viceroy, the person that was running India, and from people in England, the Home Office, the Foreign Office for the British Empire. And it says, okay, we're fair. We want everybody to have a say in the new country. When Gandhi realized that these people that he called Harijan, basically holy fuckers, were going to get their own thing, it would dilute their power, because the Dalits are maybe 20, 30% of the population. That would make the Hindus, because there are a huge number of Muslims there, that would take away their power. It's the same way that the niggas, we stupid ass black people, are a significant part of the power of the Democratic Party. That's why he got niggas so weak. You hate Trump so much. You know, if you have a period, you think Trump caused it. If you have hemorrhoids, Trump caused it. If you have stomach upset, Trump caused it. If your baby has birth defects, doesn't matter if you gave him 1 million vaccine shots or whatever, it's his fault. The way that they got black folks so they can't think, when we have these little ugly bitches attacking Trump, setting off race wars, and they're killing people in the Family Dollar, the same way that they have us stupid like that, they had a lot of people stupid who basically accepted being shit out of God's ass. But if you ever got those people to say, hey, I'm more than shit out of God's ass, I can have my own power block, then that would take away from the power, free sex, cheap labor that the Hindu elite were getting. Are you understanding me, brother? You understand me? At least you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So the Hindus, the same way the Democrats are now spending about $35 million to get Negroes to come and vote for this racist, dementia-riven piece of shit called Biden that you dumb fucks voted for. They're now spending more money. Normally, they only spent $20 million, $25 million tops in a year to get black folks to vote. The fact that they added another $25 million, they've already spent $10 million more than what they do in that whole election cycle to get black people to vote. And the shit hasn't even started. That's how much they need sorry, sucker, ignorant black people to keep voting against the Second Amendment, to keep supporting people that are against reparations, to keep supporting mass incarceration, to keep supporting illegals, LGBTQ, and the other stuff that's jacking us up, and baby killing. They need us on that. In fact, they're going to spend they're going to have to spend a few $100 million to get us to vote this time because we're part of their power. And it's the same principle for the upper caste Hindus and the outcast Hindus. And so what did Gandhi do? What Gandhi did was he had a meeting with Ambedkar and said, dude, it's always been like this. You guys have always been our fuck toys and slaves. We're not so bad. What do you mean that you want reparations? What do you mean you want a right to vote? What do you mean you want schools and sewage and decent housing and education? Haven't we been good to you? Don't you understand this is the way it was set up by Lord Brahma? Don't you know this is the order of the universe, the cosmos, since the beginning of cosmic consciousness? Who are you to challenge the way you're treated? You're doing okay. You went to America. One of us sent you to school in England. Why are you doing this? Why don't you just make money and be happy? Be a middle class fuck up like Black Americans in Prince George's County and in Fulton County and Wayne County and Kent County. Move out to the suburbs and just forget about the other people who've been stomped. You made it. We like you. See, I'm talking to you. You can drink out of my cup, but don't let any of your friends touch it because you can't use the same spoon or cups or plates as unclean people. Oh yes, they have major segregation in India. They have cars for the people who come out of God's ass on the trains. And if you serve tea, different glasses. They may not even wash the glasses for the Dalits, for the untouchables, for the pariahs, or subcontinental niggas for y'all that don't get what I'm saying. All right, moving right along. So Ambedkar says, but Mr. Gandhi, we've suffered, we've died, we've been slaughtered. Our people don't have any, we don't even have clean water to drink. We die from malaria. You guys are talking about democracy. You're saying that England's oppressing you, but we're oppressed. We need something. And Gandhi says, I would caution you, don't challenge me. Work with us. We'll take care of you. And he says, like, what y'all been doing the last 3,000 years? He says, I detect obstinance in your voice. Now, Ambedkar, you've been a good boy. You've gone to Oxford and you've studied at Columbia. And you've done all these things. And we haven't lynched you or done anything to you. And we've let you organize and get you blow off some steam about how you feel about the caste system. But it's always been here. It's going nowhere. So I would caution you, think very carefully about your next step. Have a good day. And Ambedkar says, fuck this shit. So Ambedkar continues to organize. And then a big meeting's coming up where the British are going to meet with the Muslim League and the Congress Eye. And Ambedkar was able to get a seat at the table for the people who are the shit out of God's ass. And Gandhi got so angry that Gandhi knew, and let me explain something to y'all, because all of y'all have watched Dick Gregory, my friend, fast. And other people do this fasting. And and sometimes they do immolation where you set yourself on fire. But Gandhi decided that he would fast to death to force Ambedkar to take back trying to get rights for the people who were shit out of God's ass. And let me explain something to you. Because Gandhi was high caste and Gandhi was loved and revered by many Indian people in the higher caste, they would have been so angry that their spiritual leader died over a person that was less than shit out of God's ass. They would have engaged in a mass genocide against the Dalits, the untouchables, or the people that are shit out of God's ass. So Ambedkar was faced with, if Gandhi dies, they'll slaughter the people I love that I care for. If he dies, it'll be my fault. No, a lot of the people who are getting killed wouldn't say, nigga, you thanks for standing up for me. And they'll say, motherfucking house got burnt down. They ran a train on my wife and my kids. Why couldn't you have met, right? See, because a lot of people don't understand freedom ain't free, people. When you stand up, when the people in Montgomery with Dr. King refused to ride the buses, they began jailing people and fucking with you. How dare you stand up to us? We'll smash you. Get in the back, get in the fucking back of the bus and shut your trap, nigga scum, right? When you stand up, oh, we got to hurt someone. They bombed Dr. King's home, you. How dare you stand up to us? We'll hurt you. We'll intimidate you. The Klan started marching through Montgomery. They started doing everything. We'll show you. You will never be more than what we say you are. So Ambedkar thought about that. And if you know anything about India, they have a history of communal violence. It happens all the time. Just put in the word communal violence and India, and you'll find every now and then someone goes through and they'll just kill a few hundred people, 1,000 people will die in riots, or they'll burn up. A lot of times this is covered up. For example, let's say you and I are sharecroppers in India. And by the way, you need to know that hundreds of thousands of Indian people since 2010 have committed suicide, farmers, because they borrow money. They have a system of loan sharking in India where people, it's worse than our sharecropping here, where the people can never get free. So the only way out is for people to kill themselves. And sometimes they kill their whole family so they don't owe anyone. Okay, so I'm just saying, these people who are suffering that Ambedkar is leading, he has to think about how they're going to feel if there was a genocide that he could have prevented. So Gandhi was starving. It was all in the papers. And Gandhi kept saying, I would eat something if that nigga Ambedkar would just come and talk to me. I mean, I don't know. I was good to him. I've been good. We've been good to him. And he wants to play us like this. He wants to bust us up. We need unity. Be very careful. People scream unity all the time. We need unity. And Ambedkar is not a team player. I mean, he's just all out the box. He's all out the tube. You had toothpaste out the tube. You can't get it back in. He's breaking the order. We've had this thing. We sent him to school, and look, he's turned on us. How do we know that the British foreign intelligence isn't using him against us? Ambedkar did this, and he sassed me. And what? Shit out of God's ass person talking? No, we're going to kill him. No. I'm nonviolent. I'm just not going to eat anything. But Gandhi, you'll die, right? Well, it'll be for the cause. And people start saying, Ambedkar, our high caste thugs were in our neighborhood looking at us, saying, y'all some of those Ambedkar-right niggas, right? We just feel like burning your whole fucking village down and raping you and screwing your kids. And so, dude, he buckled. And he got into this thing called the Puna Pact. Puna spelled P-O-O-N-A, Pact. It was an agreement. It was a devil's bargain that Ambedkar, basically the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass of India, had to sign with Gandhi. And part of this says is that they would get some representation within the Indian National Congress. By the way, the INC, which is kind of coonish, and in South Africa, they have the ANC. Kind of coonish, isn't it? And by the way, the INC and the ANC all have a communist streak in it. So when you see stuff fucked up in South Africa, we'll have a conversation on that later. I'm going to have my friend whose parents were leaders in South Africa. We're going to do that conversation. Now, anyway, are you following me, Brother Q?
Yeah, I'm here.
So Ambedkar makes the agreement, but part of what he says, okay, motherfucker, I'm going to sub out my people, but I'm going to get something. And so they allowed Ambedkar to help write the Indian Constitution that came out in 1951, 51. And by the way, what Ambedkar, having studied Black people in America, came up with the concept of affirmative discrimination, which you and I call affirmative action. And affirmative discrimination is written into the Indian law. And that was a way that some of the out of the ass, shit out of God's ass Indians got jobs, opportunity, education, and some of them have become wealthy. And so the Dalits, the untouchables, the pariahs, some of them got something, but understand that the top Indian Brahmins do not like these people, don't appreciate them, and the discrimination still exists. And this shit was happening when Martin Luther King's ass was alive. Martin Luther King visited India in 1957 or 58. It's one of those 2 years. I don't give a damn. If it's 59, fuck it. I'm close. It's in the 50s. And they bullshitted Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King never really said much about what he saw in India. Now, let me explain something to you. We had a couple of people that are moist. There was a person that went all over India having sex, fucking, sucking, enjoying life. His name was Bayard Rustin. He went to India and had a fucking sex safari, fucked from one end of the country to the other.
Oh, no, not Byron.
Yes, Bayard Rustin. Okay, so Bayard Rustin and other black folks would go to India because black people supported the Indian independence movement. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote a novel called Dark Princess. And it's a fantasy about blacks in America and the Indians getting together to fight against white supremacy. We're always looking for a fucking alliance. We're always looking for a coalition. We always want unity with everything except for truth, one another, and God Almighty. So there was always an interest in India. Going back a long time, there are a range of people that went to India. One of them is Reverend Lawson. I think he just died recently. Let me pull his thing up. Did I send you the Bob Moses thing?
Yes, it's in the chat for anybody in the chat.
Okay, let me send you the Reverend Lawson piece. Reverend Lawson and other people went to India. A lot of black activists went to India to look at Gandhi because the white people praised Gandhi so much, how inspirational he was, how great he was. And what did the Indians do? I mean, basically, they let the white people beat the shit out of them, kick their asses, and pat. But you know what? When there are only 100,000 white people against 300 million black people, how could you lose? You're sorry as shit if you lost. It's just outrageous. Right? They should have even ruled their asses with that few people. That's how weak the Indians are for white people. Okay, now let me just say this. So Gandhi got all this press and black folks who hate our own.
You guys, just wait 1 second. Dr. Short dropped for a second. I lost his volume.
Hello?
Yeah, you there. You on.
Okay. I just sent you Reverend James Lawson. And there were a series of these black people. Now, I was saying black folks, because the sound cuts off when I make a point. I have to try to remember what the hell I said. I don't know if you can get a signal booster or something. Damn, this is annoying. Anyway, look, black folk believe the hype the same way we got hype about Obama, same way we got hype about Kamala, same way we get hype about a lot of people. And so when Gandhi's making all the news in the 30s and in the 20s, 30s, 40s, a lot of black folks who are desperate trying to find answers started looking, saying, wow, they're not white, they're colored, we're all one. Let's look at what they're doing to deal with the white people where they come from. But I'm saying, you're sorry as shit. If you're 300 million people and you can't deal with 100,000, Damn, that's not even 1% of the population. How could they hold you down other than your asses like being slaves? Are you hearing me? So, what Gandhi's concept, Sahigraha and Ahimsa, where you don't resist, you don't use violence for violence, right? But mind you, here's a contradiction. Remember, dude was willing to fasten to death, which would trigger violence from someone other than himself against these people. So, for the people who are shit out of God's ass, you're violent. Against white people, you're nonviolent, just like Black Americans. And white people love Gandhi because he's not fighting with force. And they were holding up Gandhi. Oh, there's a way for you guys. If you just let us kick you in the ass, stomp you and beat you, we'll see your humanity as we fill up the jails. I mean, with mass incarceration, do white people see our humanity right now? God damn, it's listening. Did the police slayings make the police more humane after they blew someone's brains away? There's some stupid ass people out there in the NAACP, and some of them are church leaders, like that fat, greasy nigga preacher that was clapping for DeSantis in that video I think I sent you in Jacksonville. A fat, greasy nigga. He didn't even have a nice cover suit on. Nigga looked like a pear with the stem still on it. It was really disgusting. You know, an Andrew pear, you know, the little brown stem. Anyway. So this Gandhi stuff becomes all the rage to white liberals and white leftists. And of course, our black folks are always looking for interracial sex and experiences. They heard white folks give hype to this Gandhi. So there are black folks that went to India to learn about Gandhi and to bring it back. Now, I want to say something to you to show you, again, black people are the most ungrateful people in the world. We hate our hair, our nose, our country, our history, our family, our ancestors. We're not happy about any fucking thing, and it makes us a fucking wreck as a people. Because there's a lot to be thankful for in spite of all the shit we don't like. And we don't seem to get that. We're very unbalanced. You know, first time I went to Africa and saw a woman carrying like 200 pounds of wood on her head. It blew my mind about how much our women here bitch about how hard life is because they have a dishwasher and have to buy some Calgon. Shit, you don't know toughness. Some of us don't know what hardship is. And we have a culture of not being thankful. It curses us. Have a healthy baby and you're mad. A lot of folks have to have 7, 8, 9, 10 babies for 1 or 2 of them to survive. I don't want this. I don't want it. Right? You get where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. You can even get a halfway decent abortion and murder your own baby and have health. And folks die when they fuck up the baby inside of you. All this unhappiness. Shoot, we should be thankful. There's some things our ancestors did provide for us. There's some things that you can get in America. I don't give a damn what nobody says. I didn't call it heaven on earth, but we could sure make it nicer for one another. But back to my point, the Black people in America have been struggling all along, doing nonviolent and everything else. Harriet Tubman was leading nonviolent protests on the DC streetcars in the 1860s. Gandhi wasn't even fucking born. So this idea of nonviolent protests of Black people started with Gandhi is fake ass liar Black people and white people who are like DeSantis who want to refashion our history to teach us like slavery taught skills. Well, the other thing is that Indians taught us how to stand up for ourselves. And I want to say that Martin Luther King's family and all the people that are in the cult of King are lies and deceptions because it's real basic shit that people could know about Gandhi. And they could know about the racism and the casteism that Gandhi didn't like Black people. Gandhi was in South Africa. You've heard of Afrika Bambaataa, the pedophile rapper? Mm. Well, he's named for an African leader named Bambaataa, who Gandhi was down there trying to kill. And Black folks be running after Gandhi, who did not like Black people, didn't like Christians. He was a pedophile. He was bisexual. He was abusive towards women. Didn't like Muslims, didn't respect Christians. And that's who Martin Luther King was inspired by. Martin Luther King, the same way he had a white Jewish man writing a lot of his shit and putting his name on it, there's a whole lot of hustle in this fucking civil rights thing that we celebrate so goddamn much. And I'm not knocking Strength to Love, but Strength to Love a cop that beat your ass on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, John Lewis? I don't want that much strength. I want some weakness to want to bust that person back upside the head or break their hand so they don't raise it to me again.
I got something I want to show Dr. Short. You're gonna get a kick out of this one.
Okay, I'm looking.
So I'm Gandhi-like. I think like Gandhi. I act like Gandhi. I want to be like Gandhi. I wanted to be the modern-day Ramayana and say that we can lead against the forces of evil and take us to the next direction on who we are. So I am happy to be.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that, brother.
And clearly he knows this. Oh. You guys, 1 second, you guys. Yeah, that's Eric Abrams. He don't know what he's doing. Yeah. It is disturbing. Dr. Short will be back, you guys. Here you go.
Now, whew,
You back on Dr. Short.
yeah, isn't that crazy? I made a comment that Black people, he didn't know what he was talking about. Most Black folks don't read deeply. I mean, they don't even read the condom wrapper before they put the thing on. And the ladies take birth control pills, sort of like vitamins and shit, don't even take it consistently and wonder why they get pregnant. We often aren't deep. We're too lazy about things. So he's been told Gandhi's cool. He's a good example of a dumb fuck coon who knows that when you say Gandhi, knows how everybody clapped. They like him because he didn't fight nobody, except for the Black folk he was messing over. Now, let's move on. So Martin Luther King has Bayard Rustin, little homosexual pedophile, who was in India fucking everybody. I wonder if he gave Gandhi a piece, for all we know. Okay. Yes, these Black folk went over there, had a good time in India, came back, and all of them were pushing Gandhi. Reverend James Lawson was at the American Baptist College in Nashville. So the student movement that John Lewis and Diane Nash and James Bevel and C.T. Vivian and all these people were hearing about this Gandhi that hated their damn guts. But they were told, yeah, Gandhi's cool. Gandhi's this. Gandhi's what's happening. Gandhi knows how to get victories without large numbers of people dying, right? So they said. Let me just remind you that right after Gandhi, at the time that Gandhi died, when they separated Pakistan and India, millions of people died. So Gandhi's thing was not completely nonviolent. Lots of people died, in part due to what he was doing. Due to the other thing. Now, let me just say to you. So Martin Luther King has Bayard Rustin do two things: tell Dr. King you don't need a gun, which is bullshit, and give Gandhi credit, because you don't want to offend white people, that this is an indigenous Black movement for justice and freedom and inclusion. Basically wrap it up in this Asian shit. This is some Asian philosophy. Y'all like this, white liberals and Quakers and Unitarian Universalists. Y'all like this shit. Well, we're doing it too. So Dr. King and them have perpetuated, and his family continues to perpetuate, a lie. And by them sanctifying Gandhi, they've justified the oppression of hundreds of millions of people that are Dalits, the people who the shit out of God's ass all over Asia. Yes, the King, the same way the King family ignores black suffering in Atlanta, they're getting benefits from the Gandhi Foundation to look the other way when hundreds of churches get burned. They're burning churches in India now, killing folks now. This is what's happening now. And you had a Hindu up there for this damn farce on Washington with this Freddie Jackson looking Bernice King. This is the kind of shit that we've got, people. Dr. King and them lied to us. They meant well, but it was a goddamn lie. And if you're 300 million against 100,000, you can be nonviolent. When you're a minority within a country with nuclear weapons, with guns out their teeth, not thinking about defending yourself is suicide. Now, let me just say this. Adolf Hitler, the Indians who wanted liberation from England loved the Nazis. Loved the Nazis. To this day, Mein Kampf, Hitler's book talking about killing everybody and hating everybody, is sold more in India than any place else in the world. The president of India, he's at the bottom right corner. His name is Narendra Modi. He helped set up mass murder of Muslims in India. That was his route to power. And he's in an Indian version of a Nazi group. I think it's called the RSS. Forgive me, it's a long ass name. I can't always remember all these foreign words, but look Modi's his ass up. Let me explain to you. There's another person who was a contemporary of Gandhi. I need to pull his name up and send it to you because the Indians went over to fight for Hitler in exchange for their independence. Hold on one second. Let me get his name. Are you hearing me? I want to make certain I didn't lose you.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, let me see if I can get this guy's name. Chandra Bose. Okay, India. Okay. I'm sending you the Subhash Chandra Bose. Share this. He was an Indian nationalist. He's sort of like the Malcolm X of India, right? He got Indians to go and be trained in Hitler's army to fight the British. The Indians had an alliance with the Nazis, people. These Hindus were down with the Nazis. They were down with the Japanese. In fact, Chandra Bose had a thing called INA, the Indian Nationalist Army, that the Japanese, the prisoners, when the Japanese were fighting the British and defeated them, in particular, in the city of Singapore, the largest British naval base in the world, the Japanese captured scores of thousands of Indian soldiers who were prisoners of war. And in exchange for them being released from captivity, they could fight for Indian freedom in India, and Chandra Bose was their general. The Indian elite, like this guy that I'm calling vasectomy Vivek Ramaswamy, were aligned with the Axis powers, Hitler and Tojo, for their independence. And the same is so for a whole bunch of Muslim groups. All these Negroes, I'm for the Palestinians. I'm not against the Palestinians. The leader of the Palestinians worked with Hitler. The Mufti of Jerusalem got down with Hitler because they didn't want Jews settled in Palestine. The king of Saudi Arabia, prior to forming a relationship with the United States, had diplomatic relations with Adolf Hitler. They were buddies. These people don't like us black people. Martin Luther King lied to us. This guy, Vivek Ramaswamy, says that the massacre in Jacksonville wasn't racist. And he's not the only one. There's another one named Dinesh D'Souza. I know you know about him. I know Dinesh D'Souza. I have Dinesh D'Souza's book. Dinesh D'Souza's book has a quote that said the black community is irrigated in urine, alcohol, and blood. Okay. Now you got on the other side, you got Mrs. King. I was involved in the movement for the Dalits. Every now and then I hook up with some of them. They used to beg Mrs. King, Coretta Scott King, tell the truth about Gandhi. Why are you guys? They're getting paid. They turned their backs on them. Mrs. King left this earth knowing that she was lying. And her daughter, Bernice, the Freddie Jackson looking broad at the bottom, knows damn well that they're killing people. They're supposedly Christians. They're burning churches of Christians. That doesn't bother them. They don't care. It's all about money. And what you really get out of this whole story is that all these elite people only really care about is cash. Cash and power. And those power elites all talk to each other. We don't really matter. Whether you call yourself a Muslim or a Christian, these people don't care if I'm a Christian. The Klan will burn me up, shoot me up, right? They'll kill you if you're a Muslim. They'll kill you if you're a Hindu. They'll kill you if you're a Buddhist. They'll kill you no matter what you are. But we've been lied to by our leadership. And you're going to see more and more of these people from India fuck us up. And a lot of folks are so caught up in the fact they got straight hair. We can't. I wonder what you do, not what you look like. This guy, Vivek, the white folk are pushing him because they don't mind. The same way they had that no good guy, Bobby Jindal, fucked over the black people in Louisiana. They put an Indian in there. They put a Vietnamese bitch in Congress. She messed over the black, council member in Louisiana and New Orleans. They fuck over people all the time. What do they believe when you see these temples everywhere? I'm not saying bother no temple. People have the right to worship, do what they want. But if you're seen as less than, if they identify as white, if India buys 50% or more of all the skin whitening cream in the world and the sales increase by 100% every year, they hate being dark so much. What hope do you have? And so what? You learn their religion, learn their ways. They got this bias. No. Are there wonderful, nice, sweet people that are Indian? I've met all kinds. Some are Buddhists, some are Christians, and just wonderful people, man. I'm not preaching hatred against Indian people. Do you get that? I hope you're not getting that, Q.
No.
I'm not attacking Indian people, but I'm saying this caste system is real, and it's hurting us, not just here. It's hurting us in South Africa, Guyana, Trinidad, Canada. Now they've got an Indian head of state in the UK. If black folks start getting fucked up in England, I told you, right? Shit. I mean, what does it take? I mean, it's amazing. Let me say something, and I'll shut up. Black people have everything they need to get their asses together. The point is, it's like having a fire extinguisher in your house, and you have a small fire and you won't use it, and the whole fucking house burns down with you in it. You've got people that know what's going on, people that understand. You know, this show is probably going to get 100, 500 listeners, whatever. Okay, fine. But a lot of y'all gonna get screwed. Your kids are gonna get screwed. We're being hurt by it. And these folks, let me tell you something. A few years ago, there were thousands and thousands of illegal Indians in California in jail coming across the border with this damn shit in their head that you're shit out of God's ass. How are you going to be treated? Remember the black man down in Florida that was executed by the Indian and he got busted? Remember that case just a few years ago? The Indian guy just wanted to kill a black and he almost got away with it. We sit up and look at the color. Well, he's colored like us. We're fucking stupid. We're the same color and we kill each other. You mean a person can't be a killer because his skin's not white? We're fucking stupid. You're a retard. When you're dumb, people fuck over you. They oppress you. They don't give you reparations of freedom. Or you can't even take it. You're too stupid to take it.
It's right there for the taking.
It's right there for the taking. So The civil rights movement was a farce. It was a scam. We were lied to. Gandhi didn't have a fucking thing to do with it. Dr. King went to India, saw the bad conditions of the untouchables, and kept his fucking mouth shut because he would have been exposed as a fraud. Why are you pushing some shit that you know doesn't work for the people just like you over there? There's a lot of shit left unsaid. Dr. King and them did some ratchet shit to people. There's a gentleman by the name of Roosevelt Tatum. Roosevelt Tatum was a black man that lived in Birmingham, Alabama, that watched the Birmingham Police Department put dynamite under the front porch of Martin Luther King's brother's house. This man risked his life to tell Dr. King and his brother, I think Alfred David King, A.D. King, or Alfred Daniel or David, one of the two. Fuck, it's A.D. Okay, and you know the Kings basically gave the man's name, so the FBI, the Klan, and the Birmingham Police Department came after him. He had to get out of town and go up to New York and Brooklyn. They left his ass, hung his ass out to dry. Had the Kings, who were told not to do anything about the information that they had to show the link between the bombings and the police, there wouldn't have been a 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. But the Kings and them were so busy trying to have their damn march on Washington and this kumbaya shit, so they let this black man be destroyed. The same way they had this fucking march the other day that has nothing to do with the rest of us. A lot of us are into symbols and not into substance. And so Roosevelt Tatum's life counts. We should care about our own. Those 4 little girls didn't have to die. Had there been an appropriate complaint made, they would have had to do something about the fucking police in Birmingham. The same way Obama didn't have Homeland Security go after the cracker Nazis or the cops, Dr. King didn't go after the Birmingham Police Department. A lot of times people in leadership, they're short-sighted or sometimes just downright evil. And I'm not trying to say, you know, Dr. King didn't do anything, but the nigga was a Mason. The nigga was an alpha. He was in the boule. It took his ass forever to wake the fuck up on certain things, but he did. I'm glad for that. But, you know, but his kids can't continue to ride his coattails and sell us this bullshit. Okay. You know, I have a dream that we have some legitimate people representing us. I have a dream that people will get rich and go the fuck away. Buy some land in Maui. Don't be my goddamn leader.
You guys in the chat, remember to like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions before we close out, we'll take a few questions.
Oh, yes, we're going to do our thing. We're going to treat this like church.
Remember
I know
to hit
Sunday was...
Short's Cash App at Dr.
Yes,
Randy
keep it
Short.
coming.
Cash
Keep it
App.
coming.
Support
In fact, did you put that book up there? Did you put that book by Arundhati Roy?
Yeah, it's in the comment.
Yeah, I just bought a book. So when I talk to y'all, because I don't want people to come back, I had to buy that. So I paid, it's $11 on Amazon. If you want to know about this bullshit with Gandhi, it's there. So this is why I'm constantly buying books. You say some shit, you just want to have a reference to tell someone, get the fuck out my face. I read it. I have the source. You don't have one. And so knowledge is power. Bless my library. You know, I've got about 1,500 books that I need, $1,500 worth of books I need to buy to finish my library. And we are rolling forward with the Angry Black Men's Book Club. I'm looking forward to that. So I'm Dr. Randy Short, DrRandyShort, Dr. Randy Short, $ Dr. Randy Short, $ Dr. Randy Short, $ Dr. Randy Short. Or if you do Zelle, if you do PayPal, it will be wrandyshort@gmail.com, WRANDYSHORT@gmail.com, WRANDYSHORT@gmail.com. And let me just say this to you. I have a Patreon. And I think, brother, you telling me, oh, yes, people are going to miss us when these things were free. We're going to start charging. It'll be like $1 or $2 per lecture. I just have to make this worth my time just so I can keep up with my damn library. But yeah, look, people.
You guys in the chat, one of the things that we, you know, and you'll see a lot of the brothers and some of the sisters that do content creating, they always tell you that we don't own these platforms. So a lot of the stuff, we don't agree with censorship. So a lot of the information we can't have on the platform. So Dr. Short and myself are setting something up where we're going to do webinars. It's just a matter of getting the logistics together, and just have to do a donation in order to join,
Mhm.
or maybe a minimum fee. We're going to work on it.
Mhm.
So you guys in the chat, remember, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you get the notifications. Dr. Short, I got a couple questions here as well.
Yeah, well, let's do some questions and just like this. And by the way, we did some good interviews the other day. I want to thank everybody for taking the farce on Washington to 1,000 in a day. This is a wonderful platform. This is a good black man. I'm beginning to just love this brother. Damn, I wish I had friends like him. Plus, he can kick ass because I talk a lot of shit. I need people to beat people up who are mad at me for the truth I represent. I wish I could hang with him, man. I'm serious. I'm not lying, nigga. I hang with you, man. Have you like punch someone in the head, the little quiet person that will like punch someone out and say, I'm nonviolent, but worry about my friends. I mean, I enjoy talking to you. Good person. And you understand me. A lot of people think I'm crazy, and I'm just telling you what is. Shit. I never tell you something I can't back up. Or I'll tell
Someone,
you if it's an opinion. I'll tell you it's a dream, right? So this is a very cool person. Tell everybody about Brother Q, or as I say, Brother Dome. Brother Q is a good person. He's got 658 followers. He needs 1,000. We need to financialize this thing. We need some power chat contributions. He should do this full time. I don't know what the hell he's doing,
well,
but he would
you
be
guys in
great
the
at
chat,
this.
Claude, I see you asked, can you donate with a Visa gift card?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, you could donate with a Visa gift card. Okay, so Dr. Short, one brother asked, thanks for your support, Angry Black Man. I always see that your comments. I always look at everybody's comments.
Oh
And
yeah,
even you guys
that's
actually
hey brother Judah, white woman to you in Baltimore. Oh yes.
he said,
hmm
Dr. Short, what do you got to say about Hakeem Jeffries' weak ass statement about Jacksonville?
Well, Hakeem Jeffries is in the pocket of organized Jewry, and he's always been useless. He said nothing. Why would he say anything? They put him there to fuck us. They put him there to get people to vote for Biden. They put him there to manipulate us. He's basically like a sex doll when you need some real pussy, right? So it may have a hole, but it's really not what you need. Okay, he's a sex doll versus a real woman. We need a real leader, not something that looks like a real leader. He's sorry. He will always be sorry. The whole Congressional Black Caucus is sorry. You fooled me as congressman. I mean, he's sorry. These people are willing to let us be destroyed as long as they're getting paid. They don't give a fuck about us.
You'll see people, and this statement is coming from me. It's not coming from Dr. Short, you guys. But people like Hakeem Jeffries and talking heads like that, they can always address the symptom, but they never address the problem.
But he won't address the symptom or the problem. He's not going to do that. These people are climbers. Everybody now wants to be another Obama. So you don't have to do anything for black people, and black people still love it. And it's our fault. We love people that fuck us. We do.
Ebony, your question is not pertaining to the conversation. I know you said in reference to Lauren and Nas helping out Dr. Anderson and Janet Jackson. I personally grew up with Lauren. I know Lauren very well. So I don't know what she's doing with Dr. Claude Anderson. I don't know what them rappers do. I don't know. I don't follow that enough, and I do know who some of them people are, but I don't know what they're doing with Claude Anderson. But like I said, I'm very cool with Lauren, like personally. So I have no idea what she's doing. Oh, here you go, Dr. Short, another one. How do you get information across to folks that just don't want to learn?
You don't. You don't.
About the jab, they still take it. You tell them about the DNC and the CBC, and they still obsess over Trump.
Right. Well, then when people
Dr. Short, you muted your phone.
I'm sorry. Look,
Yeah.
I've come to accept that we'll see people destroyed in real time while we're living. And there's nothing I can really do or you can do. My love, my compassion, my concern, nothing's enough. These people have made a decision of which way they're going to go. We have to accept people's right to suicide. We can't make people live. We can't. I want it. I know what it's like to plead with people. I had a cousin. His name is Theodore Lancaster, my cousin. I saw him, and this really happened, Brother Q. And I began to beg him, please let me help you. He had a government job and businesses, and he's a minister, and he had a church down in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And I told him, look, we got family. We can get people. We can help you. You don't have to do it all yourself. I begged him over the course of 2 years, 3 years, please, brother. And one day I saw him and it struck me. And I told him, are you okay? And he said, yes, I am. I says, are you sure? He says, I am. I says, no, you're not. So we sat down at the table. There's a church banquet. And I told him, you've got a beautiful wife, man. His wife is gorgeous, nice and dark skinned, pretty, good looking woman. And I says, don't you want to enjoy the rest of your life with your wife? Your wife is gorgeous, man. Your wife is a beautiful, loyal, loving woman. And he says, well, yeah. I says, brother, you're working too hard. I don't want to lose you. I don't want you, my favorite cousin. I care. Please. You got to get help. Says, well, what's going to happen? Says, I don't want you to die from a stroke. I don't want you to have a stroke and die. I don't. I want you to live. I care, man. Please slow down. Can anyone help? And he says, I'm not going to have a stroke or a heart attack. And I says, yes, you are. And I had this conversation with him like 2 or 3 times. You know what happened? He died of a stroke.
Wow.
When I was at his funeral, I was sitting right behind his wife. His wife didn't speak to me. She wasn't angry. She remembered what I had begged him. I don't have that much pride. I love my cousin. My cousin's a great man. Beg him, plead with him, please live. Your children, and nigga didn't hear me. He's gone. And I have a friend, that name is Michelle. Michelle had a son nicknamed Q. I had a vision of her son being shot, and I was seeing it through it's like through the dash cam. I saw him being shot with a hammer by the police or somebody. And I begged her, don't let your son do collegiate study in Jackson, Tennessee. Please, Michelle. That's your son. Someone's jealous. Someone's going to hurt him. And they're going to take your son's life. And she cussed me out. She cussed me out and went off of me. And I was up in New York at Altamatics's group, United African, and I remembered my vision, and I reached to my phone and tried to call her. She had changed her numbers. So I talked to people and asked people to pray for my friend. I said, my friend and her son are in danger. I hope I can get in touch with them, but I couldn't find anyone that had her number. And I got a Facebook communication from a woman that I had taught when I was a teacher at Lane. And she asked, why wasn't I at the funeral? I says, what funeral? And she says, well, Michelle. I says, Michelle's dead? She says, no, her son's dead. I says, what? She says, you don't know? No one's told you? She says, yeah. Well, he pulled a knife or something on the police and they shot him. Her name is Jimmy Dodds. I says, no, Jimmy, no, he would never do this. That was a sweet, nice boy, sensitive kid. No. So I couldn't find Michelle. I called my friend, Mrs. Hunter. And Mrs. Hunter knew about it. And Miss Hunter, I asked her, Mrs. Hunter, where did they shoot the boy? She says, over by where you had your storage unit. I said, you mean on Highland Avenue or some, I forget this, Parkway in Jackson, Tennessee. She says, yeah, on Parkway. I said, near the school with the kudzu? She says, yes. What you need to know is I was on Parkway near the school with the kudzu when I told her her son would get shot. Her son would be killed if she let him study there. He was doing high-tech computer engineering, game design at MIT, but studying at home in Jackson. He got shot to death literally at the same spot on that street that I told her, don't let him stay here. Where she told me the matter is finished, where we were in the car was about where his body fell. You understand me? 2 years, maybe a little bit longer after his son's death, I said, Michelle, do you remember? And she knew it. She immediately, she cut it off. I remember. But she was a strong Black woman, right? So I didn't fuss. I'm not one of those niggas that can argue and try to yell down a woman. She told me it was finished. Mind your business. I do that. I've learned to accept certain people will lose. There'll be death. I had another associate, white, begged him about, COVID to talk to him. And he kept blowing me off. I told friends, he's going to die in a year or two. He's a white man that knows it all. Sure enough, he went down to the same city that Trayvon Martin lived in. What's that town? It's named for a white man who killed Black people in Africa. I don't know. But you know the town that Trayvon Martin was in. Yeah, it'll come to me. Sanford.
Yeah.
Sanford.
Yeah.
They killed him in the hospital in Sanford. But people called me while I was alive, and I told them, that's a Ku Klux Klan town, a sundown town. I can't get anybody to even take me into Sanford or would go with me to help him. We tried, and they killed him in the hospital. Okay, so I have these things happen on a regular basis. Malcolm X's grandson, I warned him in April, please don't go to Mexico. They'll kill you. I love you. I care about you like a son or a brother. And he laughed it off, and he got beaten to death in Mexico. I've come to accept rejection as part of Solomon and the, I think in Ecclesiastes, that wisdom brings forth sorrow. So the fact that we know brings about sadness sometimes because you know stuff that will make you sad or upset you, and then people will reject you and they won't hear you. And there's nothing that you can do, nothing that you can say. But you know what? You have peace of mind that you tried to. As a believer, we're told to warn people that there's a hell and you're going to go to it if you don't know God, need to be right with God. My responsibility is to tell you, not to convince you, but to tell you this is what we believe, this is what we know to be true, this is what the word says. And the scriptures tell us 9 times, maybe 15 times out of 14 times, people are going to tell you, fuck your religion, your sky god, you're nobody. And I'm good with how things are, but you did your responsibility. So there's no blood on my hand for Q. There's no blood on my hand for the white dude that died in Florida. There's no blood on my hand for my cousin. I went and I humbled myself. I didn't come, I'm Dr. Sure that. No, I don't deal with people that way. You tell people kindly, you hope they hear you. And if they don't, well, hey, there's no skin off my ass. I tried. And that's how we have to stop being emotional and sentimental. People make their choices. There are people that are going to get their dicks cut off, get their breasts cut off, this trans stuff, and they're going to have regrets and commit suicide later. We are not going to be allowed to appeal to them. They're not going to hear us.
That's what they say. Everybody can't be saved. Couple more questions here, Dr. Short. Somebody asked me a question, but I prefer you to answer it because I know my answer is not going to give it justice. You're going to explain it. They asked her, is any person in the Black Caucus for us?
That's not really a good question. A better question would be, are there persons in the Black Caucus whose interests are aligned with the interest of Black people? And I'm not certain. Maybe some are, maybe some are not. I think that this is going to upset you, but I think that Congressman James in Michigan, who's a Republican, I think he's sincere, though he's a Republican. There are probably some sincere ones, but in reality, they're going to only be, we're not organized as a force for, behind, and if necessary, against people if they don't do for us. So you're asking a person who's funded by other people, put in by other people, to be concerned about people who basically voted because they had a D behind their name, and they would vote for anyone with a D behind their name. So why would they take the black voters into consideration? We're looking for love in all the wrong places and all the wrong races. We have to. And we don't need people to be in Congress. Black folks get more sometimes out of white folks in Congress that are concerned about their Black constituents than when you get Black folks who are Black, who don't do it. Skin color, melanin count isn't righteousness. All the little liar, bullshit, Luciferian assholes in the conscious community that act as if melanin makes niggas holy. If it did, explain African dictators. Explain tribal warfare. Explain how we can let the Muslims or white Christians steal tens of millions of people. Explain how folk will sell their land off for practically nothing to the fucking Chinese. They're melanated. There is evil and there's righteousness in the universe. Our people are trying to go through life with the secular mindset as if there's, in fact, Negroes are into relativism, which was created by Jews, where, everything is relative. So basically, that's how you get the idea that men can have children and men can chest feed. Relativism, Franz Boas and other people. In fact, I hear a lot of niggas using anthropological terms like sky god, created by atheistical Jewish people. And they incorporate that into their life, and it's contradictory to everything that our people have had that's worked for us. That's how I'm going to answer that question. Are we done with questions?
No, one more. Ebony said, would you recommend Black American veterans run to hold seats? Line of defense.
Black veterans to do what again?
To run to hold seats in political atmosphere or line of defense.
Well, see, there's a problem. A lot of people, when they go into the military, certainly some of the biggest, most brainwashed coons you'll meet are Black folks in the military. I'm not saying all, but many, if not most. So Black veterans across the board, look at that little asshole, the one that looks like Esther Roll Austin, who's Secretary of the Army. He looks like Florida without the afro, who's fucked up the military. This Black dude is a piece of shit. Colin Powell was in the military and he had to do genocide on Black people in Panama, right? And they were doing genocide on Black Vietnamese in Vietnam. They're Black folk in Vietnam. The United States Army was killing them. It didn't bother Colin Powell. Being in uniform, I just learned about the thing. It's called the Fort Hood 43. There were 43 Black men that did not want to take up arms and go into Black communities when they were deployed during the riots in the late 60s, and they were all jailed. But that was just 43, which meant most Black folks in the military were ready to take guns and go into the Black neighborhoods because white folks told them to. So some Black veterans stand up. But let me share something with you. Black veterans across this country are fucked up. Yet there's no real major black veterans movement or solidarity to get their asses what they need. So it's interesting. They're more into their unit or branch of the service in the fact that they're black and they're going to get some stuff as a unit. Why don't they do it? Why haven't they done it? Because I'll tell you something about being under the control of these white men in the military. A whole lot of folks get into their branch of the service. It's like a cult being a Marine. They can't even look at you if you weren't in the military service and you're black. You're not their brother. They're just like the Greeks. They're just like the Masons. Well, you didn't serve. So I'm your family. I'm not good enough because I wasn't in combat. You have both your fucking legs missing. I'm smart for not serving. Shit. I'm smart that I didn't have Agent Orange. So a lot of people get to the military and they worship it. And I'm not knocking military service coming from family. Look, I had so many grandfathers. I can send you something right now of my grandfather who died in the Civil War, February 1864. Nicholas Gassaway died of smallpox in United States colored troops. So I've had people in my family fighting over 150 years in wars. But the real issue is, what were they fighting for? Are you fighting for black freedom? At least my folks in the Civil War were fighting for what they thought was black freedom. But these people now going to the army, it's a career move. Don't expect any more from black veterans than you would from black folks in government service, a hat check, or I've got my pension. And look at all the weak niggas that took the shot in the military that just took it. They just did it. Look at all the Negroes that got poisoned with those shots that they got over in Iraq and Desert Storm 1 and 2, and nobody really talks about all the people ruined. It's not even a discussion. If this is the first time you're hearing it, that shows you how fucking silent and weak folks who can go to other countries and kill people, but can't speak up when they come home. I'm not saying all, but way too fucking many. So the military isn't enough. What black people need are institutions that train leadership and people that are loyal to us, which is why I have my nascent group, the Black American Constitutional Political Action Committee, to see if we can start recruiting people once we get our bear, to get people to learn about legislation, all that, and get behind people. We can't assume military service or any of that means anything. You got to know these folks. You have to literally own the person in the seat, control them.
That's the only way.
You don't have to even be in the seat. Jews own the politicians. They're smart. I'm not mad at Jews. I'm a Jew myself. Own the damn person in the seat. Don't even have to be in there. It's annoying being in public life. Own the person in there. You know what? A lot of niggas are interested in politics not to serve. It's a way to be a celebrity. They can't sing or dance. Can't play sports. I could be a politician, be the center of attention, and fuck over my people like a rapper. Yeah, sounds like a plan.
It's a job now.
It's not a job. It's a scam. And so all these black elected officials, and all they do is fuck over us. Most of them. They're crooked, and a lot of them are Greek. And the other thing is, when people run for office, let me just say this to you, because I've worked on political campaigns, and niggas are a mess. Niggas are apathetic. You got to knock on lots of doors to get people. People have to know you 50 years. When you're black, they got to know you 100 years to vote for you. If it's a white person, they make up their mind if they see them on television. It takes a whole lot to deal with us because we have so much mess going on upstairs. And I'll go further. The real problem with black folks is we're out of line with God. We got yoga in the church, but they don't even teach the fucking Bible. You got Black Lives Matter, but you can't do Black history. People don't even show what's actually in the damn Bible. I mean, and I can say the same thing. I already trashed other religions. I'm back to dark Christianity. See how I am, Brother Q? I'm going to talk about the little fake ass people in church. That's a large institution. They don't even tell people about who God is. And they even have like a little white faggoty Jesus who looks like he would molest you if you were in the same restroom as him. We put this up So almost everything we have is poisonous because we don't want to do better. You know, we need to change some things. You know, if you wore the same Kotek, you could have toxic shock. You need to change stuff up. You need to we need to clean ourselves up, and it's not impossible. But start. Maybe not everything, but in phases. The other thing is we want everything to work fast. It took them hundreds of years to fuck us up this way. It's going to take some time for us to get unfucked up. We can stop here.
You guys in the chat, appreciate you guys for joining the show. Remember to like, share, subscribe. The best way to support the channel is literally to support the channell.
And you know what? Let me just say this. Our channels, we're going to be united brothers. When my channels kick off, we're going to be sharing info. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be wild, wild, wild. So yeah, I better go. But thank you again, Brother Q, for your hospitality, for your stewardship, for your support. My God, you know, you are so inspirational to me. I mean, I find hope. You're the salt of the earth type brothers. I mean, I know that people like you. If enough of us get together, we're unstoppable. That's why they've done so much to mess with us on down to the family level because of a few of us. Nat Turner shows it. April Brandoff shows it. The student protest shows just a handful of black folks tired of bullshit can change the whole world.
Hey.
You are the great ones. Everybody listening, you guys are greater than any of the people that you celebrate in Black History Month because you're alive to do something.
That's right.
Do something, read something, love someone, help someone, but be realistic. Don't romanticize Negroes. For black men, all pussy is good, but not all persons that have a pussy. Sisters, not all black men are bad, but some are. And you have to, the sisters, good guys can screw as good as bad guys. Okay, stop thinking that hard, mean black men are the only ones that can make love to you. Because, you know, they fist, just because their fist is harder than their thing, doesn't mean that they ain't going to hit you with their fist. Okay, so we need to like one another, respect one another, and yes, seek God while he can be found. God is real. Our ancestors were in the cotton fields praying and singing. We need to like reconnect to God. It would make a big difference. And God ain't a plant. He's not a vegetable. It's not killing chickens or tarot cards. All this silly shit, witchcraft, is fucking us up. And that's why they're pushing it. They push weed and they push all this stupid ass music. Change up what we're doing. We need to turn away from where we're going. Let me get off here.
You guys have a great night. Remember, like, share, subscribe. And I just got one last quick statement. Are you giving your ancestors a return on their investment?